Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to episode 20 of the Baxter County Roundtable. Tonight we have two guests with us. We have Miss Sara Fischer, who is running for, I guess this is the first announcement of this, is it right?
Yes.
Okay, well then I'm gonna let her tell you what she's running for. But just a second, we also have Brian Davis. I think everyone knows by now, they've probably seen one of his numerous billboards around town, but he's been around town here telling everybody, so everybody around pretty much already knows that Brian's running for sheriff, one of multiple candidates. But Sara, I'm gonna let you do the here. You know, you can tell what you're doing.
Okay. So I am running for Baxter County coroner. I'm currently the chief deputy coroner. I've been in that position since 2023, and this year I'll be running for coroner.
Good deal. So are you running against Brad or?
I am not. He had made an announcement that he was not going to run.
Okay.
And I would like to see the office continue with the momentum that he has created, and hope to do as good of a job as he has done all these years.
Well, good deal. I know he's got a pretty good reputation around here, so he's leaving it in good hands.
I hope
So tell us a little bit about your background.
So I moved here the very end of 2021 from out west. Don't really like to say where I moved from specifically.
There's a lot of us.
Yes.
A lot of us from that terrible state.
But my background, I have a very diverse background actually. But prior to becoming coroner, I worked for a med flight company in northern Nevada, and I was out there for 12 years. I also worked in tandem with a national disaster response organization, and spent most of my time with them working the wildland fires in Northern California.
Scary stuff there, you know.
It is, but it's incredibly rewarding, and I have 3 children. My children made it very easy to be a single parent. I was a single parent most of their life, and I have a really amazing support system. So,
well, when you get to fighting those wildland fires out there, you better have a good support system, because you don't know when you're coming back.
that's very true. Yes.
You know, my brother-in-law worked up there out of the rating office in Northern California for 19 years. And when they go on the fire line, they're there just about for the duration. Yeah. You know, I mean, they get a break here and there, you know, pulled back for a little bit, for a good meal and maybe take a shower. But they're there for the duration.
Yes. And from the medical standpoint, we fell under different guidelines than the firefighters. So we were most of the time tent camping for the entire, especially some of the mega fires that went on for months. We would just be out there. So,
yeah. So what's your background that for the, I guess it qualifies you for the coroner's office?
Okay, so my medical background has lent itself really heavily to my personal success being the chief deputy coroner so far, because I understand the anatomy and physiology, and can put that together with stories that either sound accurate or that make me question different details that were being told on a scene. And then I have an investigation background. I own a business that I started back in 2019, where I do background investigations and searches for people that other people can't find. So I'm really good at research and the investigation side of it. From the criminal standpoint, I really enjoyed it so much that I started going down the law enforcement route. So I do also currently work for 3 different law enforcement agencies. I really enjoy the work, I enjoy the forensic side of it, and I absolutely love working with the law enforcement agencies that we have here locally.
So, and you do, I understand, you do some of the, I guess, investigative work as far as the coroner's office is concerned?
We do. We work side by side with law enforcement, whether it's the sheriff's deputies or like Mountain Home PD, Gastill, any of the local law enforcement agencies. Specifically on deaths that are perceived or potentially are considered unnatural. We still get reported for every death, but we actually investigate on scene your homicides, suicides, accidental deaths, unknown deaths, or people that have been dead for some time that we need to be able to positively identify.
In other words, people that, when they find a body, like, you know, it's been missing for several weeks or
Right.
whatever?
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, there are a lot of people, unfortunately, that die alone. And it takes a neighbor saying, hey, I haven't seen this person for a while. They call one of the local agencies to do a welfare check, and inevitably they're found eventually, but by that point, sometimes they are not identifiable.
Yeah, and being a retirement, kind of a retirement community like we are up here, you know, with a lot of elderly, you know, residents, we do have, I guess, an above average mortality rate, you know,
yes.
as far as the Mountain Home and the Baxter County area.
We do. We have a large senior population, a large veteran population, and we were talking briefly before the podcast. Those two demographics heavily lend themselves between emotional, mental, and physical breakdown. We see a lot of our elderly that unfortunately just don't want to continue to push forward.
Yeah, and unfortunately, in the veterans community, you know, I mean, I spent over 20 years in the Navy, and thank God I never had to get to see combat, but I've got a lot of friends that, in the other services that saw a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a really tough time of dealing with it. It's my understanding that our suicide rate is down considerably from what it used to be, but it used to be exorbitantly high too. So, you know, that being said, that's nothing to brag about, but at least we're trending in the right direction.
Right.
So,
Right.
you know, but I can certainly understand how, you know, when you just see nothing else, you know, positive down the road, you know, why not just end it?
Right. Right.
As badly as I hate to say that, you know.
And it's not always a choice necessarily, because we have the elderly population to begin with, just in general. You know, you have a lot of those natural deaths that end up being people in hospice, or they just end up in the hospital for one reason or another and never recover.
No, that brings up a good question. For those that die, those people that die in hospice, do y'all get called for those?
Not typically. In our county, the only people that can pronounce are physicians, a coroner, or a hospice nurse. So they have a unique ability as hospice nurses specifically that they can pronounce, just because there's so much paperwork behind that situation to begin with. And they're usually under a physician's guidance anyway. And so we typically don't. There have been a few situations, because they are also mandated reporters, where if they see something that raises some red flags, they will give us a call and we'll go out and still investigate those situations as well.
Oh, okay. Something, you know, on the nature that when they were brought into the hospice, or?
It can be sometimes that. Sometimes it's they have concerns that there are missing narcotics. Sometimes it's injuries that come up that can't be explained. It just kind of depends on the situation.
Okay.
But there haven't been a lot. We do have some really great local hospice agencies, and the nurses have been really instrumental on being the ones that do contact us and say, hey, I think you guys need to look further into this situation.
Good. Well, that's encouraging that you've got people that are that dedicated and wanna do the right thing.
Right.
So, where are you looking to take the coroner's office if you're elected in the future?
Well, like I said, we already have an amazing, foundation. I would like to bring in more of a public education element. I think there's room for growth, just between partnering with some of the agencies to do classes, continuing education type stuff, but from a community outreach standpoint, I do see areas where I feel like we could improve on the community's knowledge on what to do in certain situations. I think death and talking about death has such a stigma around it in general, and I see ways that if we could get some of the information out on how people could better prepare for those things, maybe have some of those different discussions that are uncomfortable or just things that they don't typically think about, it could make not just our job easier, but it could definitely make it easier on the families that are going through that process at the time, that if they don't have some of the information ahead of time, can be very frustrating in an already very stressful situation.
Yeah, absolutely, and, you know, unfortunately, what a lot of people don't realize is death is just part of life. You know, none of us are getting out of this life alive, that's for sure.
It
So,
is.
you know, but, and I understand that the Quorum Court this past month, I believe they set aside some money for at least the initial funds to begin working toward getting a new building, a building specifically for the coroner's office, is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes, and we've been really excited about that. That's something, Brad has worked on very diligently over the last year. Right now, we are kind of spread out. There really has not been a dedicated coroner's office. So we have our morgue in one building, our office is in another building, some of our files are in a third building. So we want to consolidate that all into one workable location that is more publicly accessible. We'd like to have a viewing room, we'd like to have an education center. We do have some ideas that we'd like to see happen in the future that could potentially help even surrounding counties. And so we have the infrastructure right now being started on, and that's kind of another area I would also like to work on as far as obtaining grants, so that we can get some of the technology that we're hoping to bring in and to help with offset some of the costs for getting that building up and going.
I know, talking to Judge Liddy, and he brought up a good point, and I never even thought of it. You know, he said, you know, the coroner should have, it doesn't have to be a Taj Mahal, but it should be a nice building, such that when you have to bring in a family to identify a body, that they shouldn't have to go through, you know,
Right.
a dirty garage, or, you know,
Right.
I mean, it should be in an appropriate setting,
Right.
because those people are already traumatized,
Exactly.
and, you know, they're having a hard enough time as it is. So, you need to at least have a nice facility so that, you know, their loved one
Right.
is in a nice facility there.
Right.
Okay, so, what else? You got anything else for us? You know, what's your future you'd like to see? What else?
You know, I have a lot of ideas. I'm really excited for the future, and I'm always open. I would love to, you know, see it become a place where the community feels comfortable coming and asking questions. I'm always available, you know, by phone or at our current office location. Occasionally we do have people that call and ask questions about different situations, what to do. So I would like to encourage those types of conversations and interactions. And just as a side note, you had asked what qualifies me.
Mhm.
I have no sense of smell, so that works out really well.
Wow.
Thank heaven for COVID.
I hadn't thought of that, but
Yeah.
yeah, I guess that's a blessing in your
Yes,
case.
it is. I had my olfactory nerve cut years ago, way before COVID, and so that works out really well.
But you speaking of qualifications, you do have the same certification, I understand, as that Brad has currently as a coroner.
I do. The state requires an actual state certification course, and then we're required to do annual CEs for continuing education.
Okay, well, good. So how can people support you if, going forward? I don't know if you've got a website or anything. How can people donate to your campaign or support you?
So again, this was all kind of, it came together very quickly. So I do not have any of that set up. I just plan to currently be there the beginning of November to file, and hopefully by that point I have some of the logistics worked out.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, I'm sure you can meet her at our Meet the Candidates dinner. That'll be held on November the 15th at the Elks Lodge at 6 p.m. She's been invited. I'm sure she's gonna be there, along with all the other candidates that are running for office here in Baxter County, along with a couple of other special guests, but we'll get to that later. Okay, Sarah, thank you so much
Thank you so
for
much for
coming.
having me.
Looking forward to hearing what you gotta say and watching you here on the campaign trail, and good luck to you.
Thank you.
All right. So, now we'll turn to Mr. Brian Davis. Glad to see you again, buddy.
Good to be here.
Good to be in anywhere, huh?
Yeah,
So she doesn't have to come get her.
there you go.
That's like, better to be seen than viewed.
Absolutely.
But anyway, so give us a little bit about your background there, Brian.
Well, my name is Brian Davis. I'm a Republican candidate for Baxter County Sheriff. I was born and raised in Forest City, Arkansas. Lived in Baxter County for the last 14 years. I've got 34 years of law enforcement experience. Started in 1991 with the Forest City Police Department. I was in the patrol division for a few years. Spent 15 years in the criminal investigation division. I was a narcotics officer for 6 years. I was supervisor for narcotics for the whole department. In 2007, I was promoted to lieutenant. I was the commander over the criminal investigation division. And I was second in command to the chief of police of the entire department, 45 employees, managing the day-to-day operations of the department and a $2.6 million budget. In 2011, I moved to Baxter County and went to work for the Baxter County Sheriff's Office. Started in the patrol division as a patrol deputy, was a patrol supervisor for 10 years, and in 2023 I was promoted to lieutenant, and I'm currently the patrol lieutenant and the commander of the patrol division and a member of the sheriff's management team.
Well, good deal. I saw a couple of your patrolmen out there giving some tickets this afternoon out around Henderson, so I can verify they're out and doing their job. They're doing a job, whether it's their job or not. Well, good. So what made you decide to run for sheriff?
Well, when I was first approached about running for sheriff, it was a hard no. I mean, I was really reluctant, and had several people come to me and was asking me about it, and I still gave the same answer, no. And I got to thinking that the same quality of life that brought everybody else to Baxter County is what brought me here. I lived and worked in a high crime area, one of the worst crime areas of the state, and I don't want to see Baxter County become like that.
Forest City?
In Forest City, and I know that if we don't do our diligence and work hard, that Baxter County can become that way, and I plan to spend the rest of my life here, and I don't want to see that.
Yeah, I can testify to that. I watched California. Uncle Sam sent me out there in 1976, and I spent 40 years there. And people say, how in the world did it get the way it is now? It's because people didn't pay attention.
It can happen in a blink of an eye.
And, you know, if you're not paying attention, then people just keep doing things and doing things and doing things, and you're not watching it, and then next thing you know, it's like that's the norm. And that's exactly how California has turned into the crap hole, quite frankly, that it is, because I'm gonna tell you, it is. I've got 2 children still live out there, and, you know, the crime is terrible. Gas is $5 plus a gallon. It's ridiculous. But the crime is just, you know, they can steal $999.50 worth of stuff and be released on their own recognizance because it's less than $1,000. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, you know, you got to hold people accountable for their actions, and we don't want that here.
No. So tell me, you know, the one thing that I always hear people talk about around here is the drugs. I mean, it's the same everywhere. How is our drug situation here?
Well, you know, the increased availability of drugs all over the United States in the last several years has definitely impacted Baxter County, and right now our drugs and our theft problems, which the thefts are mostly related to drugs.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the 2 main problems that we deal with, and I don't, you know, it's not getting any better. It's just steadily going to get worse if we don't get a handle on it.
So what's your plan to get a handle on it? I know I told you I wasn't gonna ask a catch question, but I guess that is because if anybody really understood how to get rid of the drugs and stuff, they'd already done it.
Exactly. You know what? I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that I'm gonna get rid of drugs in Baxter County, because me or no one else is gonna do that. Now, I do have a proactive plan that I believe will greatly reduce the drug problem and the theft problem in Baxter County. My anti-drug plan, it starts with aggressive arrest of the drug dealers. You know, we're gonna arrest them over and over again, take seize their property and take their fine and bond money until they're either in prison, they're broke, or it becomes too expensive to do business here. And however many times we have to arrest them, we're gonna continue to arrest them. As far as our drug users, my plan includes assisting them and getting the help to get them rehabilitated. For one, to save their life, and 2, so they'll stop stealing. You know, and anybody that we arrest that's addicted to drugs, we want to try to direct them in the right direction, get them connected to the people that can help them get into rehab and get them that assistance, and we're going to assist them in doing that.
Now, what rehab is available to them around here?
Well, I think there's a couple here, where we've got, it's renamed now, it was Care Center. I'm not sure what the name of it is now.
Kingdom Life, I believe.
Yeah, I believe you're right. And of course, you know, and I think down in Batesville, there's John 3:16.
I'm very familiar with them. They have, in Batesville, down in Jonesboro, and several places. I believe they have a pretty darn good track record,
Yeah.
from what I understand.
I've been contacted by a few people that has mentioned the different groups that were available in the area. Of course, you know, I told them that we would talk more about that later if I was elected sheriff,
Sure.
But I'd like to see, you know, for those that are housed at the jail for a while, I'd like to see about getting some in-house treatment to come in and help them, you know, the ones that are gonna be incarcerated for a long time. But the main thing, we've gotta get some of the users off of drugs, and you know, that's just gonna go toward, if they don't have anybody to sell to, then that's just gonna help move the dealers on out, you know, and my other part of my plan, you know, I plan to create a narcotics unit within the criminal investigation division of the sheriff's office. Right now, we've got one investigator that's primary assigned to work drugs, and of course, he works with the drug task force that's made up of other law enforcement agencies around, but I want to create a narcotics unit where we put multiple officers that concentrates on working drugs in Baxter County. We'll still work with the drug task force just as we do now, but but we need someone that's constantly working drugs here in Baxter County.
Yeah,
I wanna include the patrol division into that also, where we can do some drug interdiction work and have those guys involved in it, and constantly have several people involved in that. And I plan to create a K-9 program. We actually have already, that's in the works now, and probably in the very near future, we'll see that in Baxter County.
well, canines are force multipliers right off the get-go. You know, I guarantee you that canine, somebody takes off running, that canine will catch them long before you or I or anybody else is gonna catch them. When you've got lost people, kids or something that are lost out in the forest, they can help track them down, so, yeah, a canine unit, I think, is very, very important. What kind of a relationship do you have with the other agencies around, the task force, DEA, FBI, all the other people around that make up that task force?
Well, we get along great with, all the agencies around here. We're fortunate in Baxter County. All the agencies get along good. It hasn't always been that way, but for the most part, since I've been here, I've seen a lot of cooperation, and it has gotten a lot better. But we get a lot of cooperation from the federal agencies and also all of the local police departments. We all work together real well.
Good, because I know I guess there was a fairly sizable bust down, further south, I guess down around Little Rock with the DEA, and a big task force here, I don't know, a month or so ago, it busted a bunch of people and stuff. But what's the main drug up here?
Well, meth is the main drug, but anymore, you never know, fentanyl fentanyl is coming in more and more, and we're getting a lot of fentanyl overdoses, and, I can't tell you how many times that I have seen our deputies have to administer Narcan,
Yeah.
and, which all of our deputies they have that in their vehicles, and, some of them have done it multiple times.
I know some of the, even the fire departments around, some of the fire departments, I don't know, maybe most of them have Narcan, I believe now too, because you just never know when you go up on a fire, you never know what's burning in there, and all of a sudden, you could ingest some of that, just, from the smoke and
Yeah.
stuff. And
I know, I guess it was last year, maybe a year and a half ago, we actually had a deputy that got exposed, searching a vehicle, and wind was blowing that day, and I guess the wind must have blew some back in his face, and he actually got exposed, we had to take him to the hospital.
Yeah, well, that's some nasty stuff, how anybody can subject themselves to using that garbage on a daily basis or a regular basis beyond me. But, so, how's the jail up there, I know the county spends a ton of money on the jail.
Yeah.
That's one of the things as I go around town, go to the court, it's like, everybody asks me, man, every month they're spending money on that jail. Well, what they don't understand, first off, is there's a special, sales tax that, creates revenue for that, and that has to be transferred from the general fund over to the jail, but in order to do that, the court has to actually create a line and send it over.
Yeah, well, a lot of that expense has been replacing stuff that was put in there when that jail was actually first built. We've had to replace, freezers and air conditioning systems and the radio system and the main control board that operates all those electronic doors has had to be replaced, and that was a considerable amount of money.
Yeah, I remember that.
But that's the main thing that is the expenses are having to replace the stuff that's just wearing out, that's been there for a very long time.
Your camera just,
Did it twice.
it just went off. Well, okay, so how's pretty much on tap, you got that all replaced now, is everything looking better?
I believe so, which Lieutenant Mays is the one that's over the jail, and of course we have meeting once a week, and discuss everything, and I believe that right now, everything is either on schedule to be fixed or has been fixed.
Well, that's kinda like owning a house, you know, if you got a house, you don't know when it's not, when it's.
And you know, when you got a building that's got that many people, and of course, you know, those inmates, they don't try to take care of anything, and that building sees a lot of wear and tear,
Oh, I imagine.
so there's always gonna be a lot of maintenance that has to go on in there.
Yeah, I'm sure. How many people do y'all house in the jail on a typical day?
Well, you know, it's up, it's been, right now, I think we've got like 124, 125 in there last, I think this morning when I saw it, but it's been running below 100, it's a little up right now for the last month or so, I don't know, I don't really know why, but it's a little bit, it's up, but we usually average right around 100.
Now, are those, short-term, long-term, you know, how's that work?
Well, we've got some in there that have been in, we've got a couple of inmates, we've got one's been in there for over 5 years, and one's been in there for about 3 years, just waiting to go to trial.
Their lawyers keep.
Yeah, the defense attorneys keep continuing it, so I mean, it's on them, it's not anything that our side has done, and you know, I guess as long as the courts will approve it, the inmates, or the prisoner, or the suspect can continue it as many times as they want, as long as the court will approve it, and it doesn't count against the state's time running.
So, if they spend 5 years in there, they go to prison, get sentenced to 10 years, have they already got 5 years of it knocked
A
off?
lot of times they get credit for time served.
Man. So how big of a problem, you know, that forces me to ask a question. We see around the country, these prosecutors that don't wanna bring charges, or they plea deal down to ridiculously low charges. How is our prosecutors around here? Do they pretty well hold the line on stuff, or?
Well, as far as I know, you know, I don't personally have a lot of dealings with the prosecutors. You know, CID does most of the,
Okay.
filing most of the charges, and of course, you know, the patrol division, you know, the deputies, they make their own arrests and charges, and I think they pretty much prosecute the cases unless there's some issues with it. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
and that's one thing, you know, that we work on, is trying to make sure that the deputies cross all the T's and dot their I's, and make sure that they present cases to the prosecutor that he can prosecute.
Yeah, okay. And we don't have too much of a problem with them just letting them out on their own recognizance, you know, or ridiculously low bail or stuff like they do in some places?
Well, I mean, you know, I know that, you know, the bail gets set when they go to jail, and then a lot of times they go to court and they get out. Now, I don't know what happens on that, but
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the court doing it or what, but I know a lot of times, you know, you hear the prosecutor, fighting a bail reduction.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on what the severity of the case is.
Well, I mean, we don't have nearly the problem they do in places like Philadelphia and LA and stuff, where, you know, you can kill somebody and they'll let you out on your own recognizance, you know? But, anyway, so how's the campaign going?
I think it's going great. We've got a lot of positive feedback. I've had, you know, nothing but good response. You know, I've actually had a couple of people tell me that they weren't gonna vote for me because they were, gonna go with the other candidate because they knew him, been knowing him for a long time, but I've not had anybody spit at me or throw anything at me yet, so.
Hadn't been shot at yet.
Yeah, I haven't been shot at yet, but I think it's going great. Been getting great response, great support from the public. I think, looks good so far.
Well, good. You know, I've told people, you know, some people have asked me, you know, what about the sheriff? You know, which one are you gonna vote for? I said, well, you know, that's me, you know?
Well, you know, and I would urge everyone to do your research. When you go, you know, first off, go to the polls and vote, exercise your right to vote, but do your research. Go make an informed decision when you go.
That's absolutely true, you know, and I'll tell you what I tell them. You know, I think we're pretty blessed here that, you know, I don't think there's a bad candidate running, you know? You know, sometimes you see political races, and it's like, boy, well, for instance, up in New York, you know, I mean, you got communists and Marxists running, you know, it's like, that's a pretty clear choice, who you shouldn't vote for. Here, you know, we got some good candidates running, you know, any one of them win, we're not losing.
Can you guys
You
get
know.
closer to the mic? We're having people griping.
What?
Get the mics closer.
Okay, sorry about that, folks, but, you know, I think we're blessed here to have, you know, the quality of candidates that we've got. So, what else you got for us, anything?
Well, we'll give you a little quick rundown of what my theft problem is. Take care of our theft problem.
Okay.
I've got a proactive plan for that to implement some programs to involve the community, give the community the ability to work with law enforcement. You know, I'm gonna increase patrols to our businesses and our neighborhoods. But instead of just being out there patrolling, I want the deputies stopping and making contact with these business owners and the public, get to know them. I'd like all of our public to get to know our deputies by name. People feel more comfortable giving you information if they know you.
Absolutely.
I plan to implement a Crime Stoppers program in Baxter County where people can get paid cash rewards for information on certain crimes. I got what I like to call a property safety assessment program. If someone wants to call the sheriff's office, we'll send someone out to evaluate their property and just make suggestions on things they can do themselves to make their property safer, whether it be security cameras or where to put lights or trim the hedges to make your house less visible or more visible and less inviting for thieves. We've got a few neighborhood watch programs I'd like to implement more and get the other ones revitalized. They've kind of gone stagnant, not a lot of activity, but I like to get the public to start looking out for one another. You know, there's no better asset in a neighborhood than the eyes and ears that live there.
Absolutely.
Everybody knows what their neighborhood looks like. You know, and if a criminal knows that when they come into a neighborhood that someone's gonna call the sheriff's office, that may be the factor that keeps them out of there. You know, the sheriff's office, we'll take the risk and we'll provide the muscle, we just need the eyes and ears out there to tell us what's going on.
I've had several communities where I live that had neighborhood watch. And I'll tell you, if a vehicle came in and nobody was familiar with that vehicle, people started calling each other, hey,
Yeah.
you see that vehicle?
Right,
You
right.
know?
But if we just get everyone start, you know, this is all of our counties. We work together. It's going to take working together with law enforcement to keep the quality of life that we've got. You know, we've all got to. If we want to keep enjoying what we've got to work together to keep it that way.
Well, and especially on the drug scene, you know, neighbors see things going on that look suspicious. And it's like, yeah, I think there must be some drugs going on or something. All of a sudden, if you got some new people moved in to a house, and shortly thereafter, all of a sudden, the traffic just picks up dramatically. There's cars and vehicles coming at all hours of day and night, and,
Right.
you know, it's like, that's a sign.
Well, that's the kind of information that we want. You know, if we get on a name basis with the citizens and they feel comfortable, you know, they'll feel comfortable calling and tell us, give us tag numbers, tell us what kind of vehicle it is, let us know this information so we can get out there and do our due diligence and work on it, you know, but that's the kind of relationship that I'd like to build with the public.
Well, that's good. That sounds good. I know, out in San Diego County, when I was living out there, what they did was they moved the deputies out into the community. They would, you know, help them buy houses out in specific areas of the community and try to space them around so that if a community was having problems, they just called their local deputy. Everybody had that deputy's cell number, and they just called him. It reduced the response time dramatically, number one, but it also, like you said, put them on a first name basis with that deputy, and he'd go out, you know, and meet people and stuff and talk to them. So it really helped gain the confidence
Well, in 2023, I started having the deputies to go around and they go out in the county and make contact with the business owners, and we already started doing that, and I've been getting a lot of positive feedback from the businesses. They like that, and you know, and it's really been great for public relations between the businesses and the sheriff's office.
So good, and hey, gotta take care of our small businesses, they're the lifeblood of this county.
One other thing that I've got that it's not crime related, but it is definitely a priority, and that's that I plan to create an automated welfare check program for our elder citizens. They can call and sign up. It'll send them an automated phone call at whatever time they choose. If the first call they call, and if they don't answer, the system will call them back the second time. If they don't answer the second time, a deputy gets dispatched out there to check on them. They can sign up where it calls them 1, 2, 3, however many times a day they want, but if they don't answer the first call, the second call, we're gonna get a deputy sent out there to check on them. You know,
Yeah, we do have an abnormally high elder community up here.
well, we get calls regularly to go do it, welfare checks. Actually, I did a quick check a couple of days ago, and I know of 7 instances, this year where we've been sent to do a welfare check and found the person deceased. You know, you never know the answer to that question, but you wonder if we had a system in place like this, could some of those have been prevented? You know,
Right.
we'll never know that could be answered, but you would like to think that we can prevent that kind of stuff in the future.
Absolutely.
And I've been on numerous calls where you go to check on someone and they've been in the floor and been down for 3 or 4 days, and because no one was there to check on them, so. You know, and of course we've got medical there and got them help. Some have survived and some hadn't. But if we can just prevent that kind of stuff with simple programs, a simple phone call, then that would be well worth it.
Well, it seems like it wouldn't be too terribly hard to set up. I mean, it's just like we've got our automated, weather advisories, that sends out alerts. So,
Yeah. I've already been researching. I found a couple of companies that I've been looking at, and I believe that's, and actually I've been doing some research with the sheriff, and he's on board. If we can get this going sooner than later, then we're gonna go ahead and do it. But,
and after a while, you kind of figure out who it is. I know, I'm a member of the volunteer fire department out in Hand Cove, and I know we've had multiple calls on the same 2 or 3 addresses over the last month or so, so after a while, you identify, okay, yeah, this person here is subject to, more falls or
Right.
whatever, and probably needs checking on more often.
Well, see, and that's another thing, whenever they sign up for this program, they can also add any kind of medical information that they've got. If they have heart condition or subject to falls or whatever, that can all be put in there. When that deputy's notified to go out there, he'll be given that type of information.
Yeah, that sounds
Or if
great.
they've got a key they wanna hide somewhere, they can put that information in there, and then that deputy can be told where a key is at, so.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. Well, good. Okay, so, what else, you got anything else, or?
Well, I'd just like to say, with Baxter County is continually growing, and, unfortunately, as we grow, there's gonna be some bad come with that. I think that Baxter County needs a sheriff that's gonna keep the sheriff's office professional, but yet has experience to be prepared for any problems that we may have. I've worked in high crime areas, I've worked with violent crimes, I have that experience. I believe I can lead the sheriff's office into the future and prepare Baxter County for anything that we may see in the future, and I would respectfully ask for everyone's vote on March 3rd in the Republican primary.
Okay.
My contact information, phone number is 870-317-2260. My website's briandavisforsheriff.com, and the email is briandavisforsheriff@gmail.com. Any questions or concerns, I'd be glad to hear from you.
And you're gonna be at our dinner,
I will.
so if you wanna talk to him in person, ask him some questions, show up on November the 15th at the Elks Lodge. You'll need to buy a ticket first. Tickets now are available at the Moore Warehouse. just across from Brenda's out on 62 East. So we'll have, like I said a while ago, we'll have all of the candidates for local office there. We're also gonna have Brian Davis, candidate for Secretary of State, Christian Olson is running for Land Commissioner. They'll be there as well. So with that said, put out a few little general information bulletins here. The Quorum Court meets the first Tuesday each month at 5:30 at the courthouse on the second floor. City Council, first and third Thursday, 5 p.m., City Hall. City Planning Committee, second Monday, City Hall, 1 p.m. County Planning Committee, second Tuesday, 11 a.m. at the courthouse. A&P, advertising and promotion, is third Thursday, 3 p.m. City Hall. School boards are third Thursday at 6 p.m. So, with that being said, I think that's about it for tonight. For those candidates, or those potential candidates that are looking to run for office, the filing period will run from noon to 3rd till noon to 12th. So, the filing will take place at Moore Warehouse, right across from Brenda's on Highway 62 East. We'll be set up there and be ready to do all your filing right there. That being said, thank you for tuning in tonight. Have a good week. See you next week.